please.
See, here.
Paul Godwin,
Here.
Chris Huster, Karen Kellums, she is absent, Dan Downey.
Here.
This meeting is a meeting of the Deer Park Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Due to the COVID-19 national pandemic, community input is being suspended for this meeting. However, public comments will be accepted via this link.
Thank you. May I have a motion for approving the meeting agenda?
So moved.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving tonight's meeting agenda, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. District recognitions and donations. I see we have one this evening.
Yes, we do have one this evening, and it is the PTO we would like to recognize tonight. And we just want to thank them for their donation of staff t-shirts to support the continued education of Deer Park students during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I know Mrs. Huster is modeling one of the shirts this evening, and it says "Protect the Park," and it has a wildcat with a mask on it. So thank you for the design, Mrs. Huster, and thank you to the PTO for providing those for our staff members.
I didn't do the design, John. Did not do the design, but it was kind of a coalition with the PTO to get this done. So thank you.
I know the staff, they were very excited about the shirts as well. So a lot of good positive feedback from the shirts. So again, thank you to everybody involved with that.
All right, could I have a motion for the August 4th approval of the board development meeting minutes? Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving August 4th board development meeting minutes, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion for the special meeting on August 10th, those minutes?
So moved.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the August 10th special board meeting minutes, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And may I have a motion for the August 18th regular board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the regular board meeting minutes from August 18th, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Alrighty, so today we have the August 2020 financial report. Overall, we are under our overall spend versus this time last year by 5.7%. It's a bit of a different year. I think all of us know that it's going to be a little bit different, so we're going to see some different trends this year. There are two items that I would like to point out: the 2300s, which is the Board of Education Support Services, and the 4000s, which is the extracurricular activities. Those both boiled down to timing. The liability insurance invoice was paid in August 2020 versus July 2019 last year, so that's why there's a bit of an increase there. The extracurricular activities, the annual CHL league fees invoice that was paid in August 2020 versus October 2019 last year, so again, timing. And then the 600s, that's our capital outlay. We had some staff devices for Amity, but mostly we replaced a core computer infrastructure for the district. There was a server located at Amity, and it was from 2013. The fact that it was still running was impressive. So that had to be replaced, and again, that's core computer infrastructure. So that is the August 2020 financial report.
May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the August 2020 financial report, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. You have some recommendations.
Yes, my first recommendation tonight is an authorization to invest. We have two that we're going to vote on together. The first one is a redemption from Star Ohio. That's our normal monthly expenses, payroll, AP, outstanding checks, and so on. The other redemption is from Star Ohio Plus. So Star Ohio Plus is kind of like our safe haven Star Ohio is a little more liquid, so things move around a little easier. Star Ohio Plus, in order for that to be available in Star Ohio, we have to request it by phone, and then it takes 24 to 48 hours to move over. So we just want to make sure that those funds are available to move to our regular PNC day-to-day bank account for availability.
A motion for approval.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the authorization to invest with Star Ohio and Star Ohio Plus, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
My second recommendation tonight is a recommendation to establish accounts. This will be approving a new special cost center to track the coronavirus relief funds, which we board approved the fund for that last time. This is a special cost center within that fund, and that's the Broadband Ohio Connectivity revenue and expenditures. This is guidance from the Ohio Department of Education. Because this is a separate fund that they're giving us, we want to be able to track it through this special cost center. Stacy worked really hard to get everything together for that. Good job with that, and we just need to get the special cost center approved so we can move forward.
Motion, please. Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the new special cost center to track the coronavirus relief funds, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Alrighty, my last recommendation for tonight is a recommendation to approve the permanent appropriations for the 2020-21 school year. We did the temporary in the end of June just to get us started. These are more accurate numbers. These are the permanent appropriations that have to be board approved before October 1st. So this is the annual approval for the permanent appropriations.
May I have a motion, please? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. You're up with a report.
Okay, thank you. I do have one report this evening, and before we get into that report, I want to let folks at home know and let the board know I am going to be talking about the return to school. I'm not skipping an update on that. I don't have it on here as an official report, but I'll be talking about the return to school in the board discussions section. So just want to make sure your teacher here at the Holmes building that they are working on. That could be a very great program for some of our kids that are over here right now in our Discovery program. But I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Orso to explain a little bit what that is, because later on in the evening I'm going to have some recommendations around the CBI program. But I want you to know what it is. Want you to have an opportunity to ask questions before we get to those recommendations. So Dr. Orso, I'll turn it over to you, and I believe Mr. Snyder, oh, they gave you the mic already. Okay, so it's on all you.
Okay. So this is a program that Ms. McKeever is familiar with because she helped oversee it in a previous district. And so she brought it to Jay and I to have further discussion about, because she sees a need for it down in her program. So I'm going to read you the program description. It's a few sentences long, but it's straight out of the CBI manual on ODE's website, and I think it captures exactly what, better than I could paraphrase it myself. The Career-Based Intervention Program, it's also referred to as just CBI, is an ODE career technical education program designed for students ages 12 to 21 in grades 7 through 12 who are identified as disadvantaged, either academically, economically, or both, and or students with disabilities who have barriers to achieving academic and career success. This program is designed to help students improve academic competency, develop professional skills, and implement a career plan that will serve them on the path to graduation and beyond. Work experience course. So it has in-school academic components that Ms. McKeever would have to work with students on. There's some coursework that goes along with it. And then students are able to go out and be employed and earn credits based on the number of hours that they work. Ms. McKeever also acts as a job coach throughout this, and so she would be visiting their job sites after school or on the weekends, meeting with the students' supervisors and just watching students work, and being able to sort of be that liaison to help those students grow in their professionalism while at work. And so it's really just sort of helping to prepare them for workplace after high school with some additional supervision while they're in high school. It does require an additional license through the state of Ohio. Ms. McKeever already has that license, and so we're good to go ahead and move forward with that. She doesn't have to complete any additional coursework or anything like that. As far as resources go, all that is really required at this point, because she's able to do this within her current course setup down in the Discovery program, is just some additional hours for her to be able to go out and visit those job sites outside of the school day. But beyond that, no additional resources are required.
Are there specific jobs, like do you team up with certain places or do they work anywhere? How does that piece work?
Great question. Combination of both. So we have some students that are already in job placements that are working, and so Ms. McKeever can work directly with those job placements. But for those students who are still looking for jobs, she can go out and build relationships with particular places that students might be interested in.
Kind of work.
Currently, right now, we have students working in fast food, so that's the work that is primarily out there right now. But I think that we would hook Ms. McKeever up with Ms. Jandes, who is our coordinator over at the junior senior high school, who works with students for a work study program over there, and she has a lot of contacts, and so we would have those two connect and maybe share resources.
So are there any incentives for employers to hire some of these kids?
I think the main incentive is that they're going to have a job coach from the school helping to support the student while they're working. And so whenever you a lot of times get a new student or a new teenager who's never worked before, they require a lot of additional support. And so they'll have that through the school, and they'll have that partnership with us.
And I would also add, you know, it's similar, it's not obviously not the same, but similar to our career academies at the junior senior high school. And for example, Monty Manufacturing, who oversees our manufacturing career academy, you know, one incentive for them is if they can get students in the program and learning the skills in the trade while they're here in high school, that they can plug that person right in after they graduate if they want, and that student can have a great career. And is also helping Monty Manufacturing because it's an in-demand career. There's not enough people to fill the holes. And so I think it serves both sides very well. And I can see parts of the Discovery program fitting that same model.
I think the program will start.
If it were to be board approved, Ms. McKeever would just need a little bit of time to make sure that she has the coursework in order, and then it can start pretty quickly.
Coursework is in addition to their regular credits, in combination with, how does that work?
It is in addition to the regular credits, but it is worth credit, so it would be an elective credit. So instead of taking an elective credit on Edgenuity, they would be taking career-based intervention as an elective credit instead.
No-brainer.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
And I know
Amazing.
Mrs. McKeever came to Dr. Orso and said, I've got this kid, and this kid that could really benefit from that. And one of the things that we're really happy about with Miss McKeever in that program is she connects with these families almost daily. I think just about every kid that's in those programs, she gets to know the kids very, very well and knows what their strengths are and knows where to connect them out in the real world per se. And she already knows after a month in that these 3 kids would be absolutely perfect for this, and she thinks it's going to better their future, which is, we love it because she's coming to us with great ideas and all the time, and she is connected with these families already.
Questions? All right, anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Warsaw.
We'll move right into our recommendations.
That would be great. Thank you. And so leading into the recommendations, my first recommendation is to approve the career-based intervention program for Discovery Junior Senior High School students for the 2020-2021 school year.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the career-based intervention program for Discovery Junior Senior High School students for the 2020-2021 school year, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And I do have some personnel this evening. The first recommendation is to approve Stacia McKeever as a teacher for the Career Tech program for the junior senior high school students for 2020-2021 school year.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving Stacia McKeever as a CBI instructor for the 2020-2021 school year, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, my next recommendation is to approve Stacia McKeever for additional student support towards remote learning for the 2020-2021 school year.
So move.
Any questions or discussion?
And yeah, I have one clarification for you all on this. So right now we have 24 students who are on an IEP that have chose remote learning this semester. With that, obviously there are things within the IEP that as a school district we have to support, specifically to SDI, specifically to design instruction, other interventions that may be in part. So what we have done is contracted with Edgenuity to hire their teachers to provide those supports to those kids that are on remote, our students that are on remote learning. He said there's 24 of them. But what they did need is they needed somebody to be able to roster those kids. They need to be able to have somebody from our district because they're Deer Park kids. And so Miss McKeever is a Deer Park teacher. And so she, being that she teaches Edgenuity right now with her students here, she knows that program inside and out. And she had offered to be able to support those 24 kids. She's not teaching them. There's teachers within Edgenuity that we have hired to be able to provide all those services. But she is connecting with the families. She's enrolling them, doing those types of things. So that's why we said not to exceed 60 hours per semester. She's basically our district liaison, keeping the kids connected to the district, calling the families, making sure that they have the support that they need.
So does this happen during the school day or in the evening, or how does this work?
Probably a little bit of both. As you know, our Discovery students are here from 8:30 to 11:30, 12:30 to 3:30, so she does have some time in between when she's actually teaching, but a lot of it happens after 3:30. She'll connect with those families in the evening.
She's amazing.
I will tell you what I've got, the more I've gotten to know Stacia, this is her life. This is what she does. And I think Dr. Orso has knew her prior to coming to Deer Park, and I think she would attest to the fact that this is what she loves to do.
Any other questions? All those in favor of approving Stacia McKeever as support for Edgenuity remote learners for the 2020-2021 school year, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My next recommendation is to approve the following teachers for supplemental contracts for the 2021 school year: Stacia McKeever, Craig West, Andy Felix, and Brady Marsh.
Move.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the supplemental contracts for the 2020-2021 school year as Jay just read, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And my next recommendation, we've actually talked about this at a board meeting already, but we have to officially approve her retirement. I'll take the blame for that one because I thought we could just let her contract just non-renew and she wanted to retire. But Deb Field, obviously, as of September 1st, has been retired. We talked about this at a prior board meeting, but we want to officially approve that so from the Treasury side they can button up everything from severance and things like that. So my recommendation is to approve Deb Field's retirement as of September 1st, 2020.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving Deb Field's retirement as an aide effective September 1st of 2020, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and this last one is a big one. It's a sad one for us here at Deer Park, but I do want to recommend the resignation of Melissa Harner as treasurer of Deer Park Schools.
Move.
Any questions or discussion?
I just want to say that this was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to make in my life. That Deer Park, not just the board, the staff, the leadership team, but the community. I mean, what you have here is something that is very special that will be found nowhere else. So I've taken a job that is 10 minutes from my house. I will no longer be a treasurer, but Deer Park will always be a part of who I am, and because of each and every one of you, I'm a better person for being here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's approve first. All those in favor of approving the resignation of Melissa Harner as our treasurer, effective October 11th, 2020, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And we want to thank you for all of your service to us.
And I second that. I want to thank you for your service. We came into this thing together as a new treasurer, new superintendent. I think we've learned a lot, and just appreciate what you've done for the district. And I know, sometimes you got to make decisions that are for yourself and for your family, and I think you're making a great decision, going to a great district, and you're going to be close to little Zoe. And we understand, I think you travel over an hour one way every day to school or to work right now, and so we understand that sometimes you have to make decisions that better yourself or your family. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So I want to say that you and your professionalism that you brought to the school district will surely be missed. You've been unbelievable to educate me as a new board member, as I'm in my third year now, but I appreciate all the talks we've had and kind of coaching me along the way. So thank you.
All right. Is that the end?
That is the end of my recommendations this evening.
Thank you. Let's hear from our committees then, your committees.
Okay, Building and Grounds, Mr. Godwin, Mr. Downey.
Grounds. Really, we talked a little bit about just finishing up the work on the PPE work at both Amity and the senior high school. All the new student desk dividers are installed. We chatted a little bit about some window leaks at Amity, and that they're being assessed by a local company, and Dave Conover's putting that together, a plan to make repairs. We continue to talk about roofing issues at both Amity and the senior high school, but we think that there's a plan moving forward. One of the nice things I noticed tonight in the building here at Holmes is all the doors, the interior doors, are being refinished by Tom Reno, sanding them down and varnish them. For a school that's 61 years old, the doors look amazing. They really do. So thanks to Tom Reno and Dave Conover for their efforts there. At the senior high school, the new sound system has been installed into the auditorium, and they're going to be training to select individuals later this month, and look forward to hearing that in the auditorium. I think that's really all I had. Was we had talked a little bit about the bleachers at the sports complex may be a concern there. Jim Stahls had an engineer, a PE, out to look at that, and has given us his blessing that we're good for several years to come on that. And then our next meeting will be October 20th. That's the end of my report, Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. Communications, I know Ms. Kellums isn't here, so we're going to skip that. Curriculum and instruction, Ms. Huster and Mrs. Bossy, I believe you have scheduled a date at a later time to meet with Dr. Orso, so we'll come back to that one at the next board meeting. Finance Committee, Mrs. Bossy, Mr. Downey, Mrs. Huster, do you have anything to add with finance?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Phillips. Yeah, again, we met this evening with Melissa and Jeff Lewis, Peggy, and myself, kind of just to get our monthly update on the financial affairs of the school district. Really focused this tonight on where our current banking is being done and where the investments are held, and the security of those investments. That I know you guys dialed it back a couple months ago at the beginning of COVID to put us in a bit of a safer investment. We kind of went over that this evening. Melissa did a nice job on a takeaway of all the different banks that we're currently utilizing, and then also talked about the RFP for a potential bank change potential on our day-to-day banking, which will be completed. The recommendation to the board is going to be on November 3rd, and then by the end of the year we'll have a direction that we're going to go with that. Got really educated tonight on the CARES Act and the CRF and where that money comes from, both the state level and the federal level, and what we've spent, and hopefully for reimbursement. And again, it looks like overall we've done pretty well financially with COVID, and the less money and have this CARES money and the CRF money come in. I think it's been very good. We talked a little bit about the transition of treasurer that we're going to speak about more this evening, but that kind of wraps it up of what we met in that meeting this evening. So thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Downey. Mr. Smith with the Great Oaks Vocational Report.
It's the return of the Great Oaks Report. It's been a long time. What we're doing at the Great Oaks right now is we're still doing blended board meetings. So just for the separation, so we have about half the board members are in a Zoom meeting, and then the other half are at the board office at Scarlet Oaks campus. So that's gone somewhat well, but Zoom meetings are kind of strange. So with 36 board members, it's kind of interesting when you do a roll call vote, and which we have several. Our restart, I had passed the information out to Jay. I don't know if he passed it out last month, but as part of the restart, we've developed expectations for the students and the parents, and learning expectations for the students. So we're tracking that and have given that information out to try to keep our students on track. And basically we're on the same schedule as Deer Park, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, with that Wednesday as the everybody learning from home and kind of cleaning up the classrooms and doing what we need to do. One other thing that we're doing also is we're tracking all the COVID-19 cases on a weekly basis. So on Friday they do updates. So if there are cases that come out, we do that kind of tabulation, almost like a bullying report on a weekly basis, and what campuses occur at, and then keep that contact tracing as best as we can. A couple programs that for the public services that we're doing at the Oaks. Right now at Scarlet Oaks, we're building a fire tower in a burn building, which will service the fire departments in the local area and our students that are using those facilities. And we're also upgrading our firing range. Now that's used for people getting concealed carry permits, but also many police departments use that because the firing ranges cost a lot of money to maintain, and we get a lot of local police departments utilize that. We do legislative reports at the Oaks, and so we had a couple just that are pertinent to the education. The Senate Bill 358 is potentially should be passed. It's a bipartisan education bill. It's got lots of stuff in it, including e-choice and what's going on with the COVID stuff. So that's going through the Senate, and there's a House bill which is in committee right now, and that's to grant immunity for schools for claims related to COVID-19 exposure and transmission. So that's actually in the committee. So that should, well, I don't know if it will pass, but it should come out. It should be around soon enough. And then just one last thing. One of our students was recognized in this month, and that's Sarah Egbers. She's in cosmetology, and she was recognized for the Scarlet Citizenship Award, Weekly Award. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Steve, and congratulations to Sarah.
The House bill, well, I guess it's more Jay, but do the House bills that are coming through, are they the same for public schools as well as Scarlet Oaks?
Yeah, absolutely. And really, the last one that Mr. Smith referenced regarding immunity for COVID-related issues, school districts inherently have sovereign immunity anyhow. However, they're putting in these extra layers of protection because, what kids at schools that are back in session, to prevent families or staff members or suing school districts from being in session, they're trying to put some extra layers of protection, but we do have sovereign immunity anyhow. And we all talked to our legal counsel way back in March as this thing unfolded, because we know inherently unfortunately there could be some liability around operating a school district in a pandemic time. So yes, but to answer the question, it does. All the House bills that Mr. Smith referenced impact public schools. Thank you, Mr. Smith. The last two committees, OSBA, Mr. Godwin or Mrs. Huster, do you have anything for OSBA? And then policy would be the last one, and I know I am meeting with Mr. Durbin, Tom Durbin, our Neola representative. I believe it's next week, and then we will follow up with you. So we should have some policy come the next board meeting. And that is the end of the committee reports, Mrs. Bossi.
Something to look forward to, policy.
Great job with it. So I think that she helps Jay with the policy, and then when Paul and I come, it's pretty much laid out and we're able to go over it.
All right, we are on to board discussion.
Okay, I have a few items that I know you probably all do as well, maybe. But a couple of things that I wanted to get to. First of all, I referenced during my superintendent report that I wanted to talk about the return to school and just give an update. And I guess the first thing I want to mention is tomorrow is our first real remote Wednesday. The first two Wednesdays back in August, you know, we didn't ask students to be required to do work. We didn't ask teachers to record their online lessons. Really what they were doing is making sure that they had all their protocols in place with the return of our students. And then last week we didn't have a remote Wednesday due to Labor Day. So this is really the first remote Wednesday. I'm saying that now so that I'm reminding parents, students will not be here tomorrow, but they should be they should be online, and their teachers should have communicated to them. It's different at the high school and the elementary school, but when they will be online to connect with their teachers. So that's tomorrow. I wanted to make sure that I put that out there right now. And Jake, I'll say this now, if we can get another reminder out by email this evening. I know it's been in our Amity newsletter and our junior senior high school newsletter, but if we can get an email out just letting parents know that students will be connecting with their teachers remotely tomorrow, just as a last minute reminder, that would be great. I also want to address, I've had several people email me, and I've shared a few of those emails I've shared all the emails that I've received with you as the Board of Education, but I've also had conversations with teachers. I've had conversations with parents in the communities at volleyball games and at football games. So I did want to talk about this because the question now is being asked, now that we're back in school, when are we going to come back full-time, face-to-face? And so that's obviously a question that is burning out in the community. And I wanted to address a couple of the pieces with the community now. And I know, my ultimate goal, and I know the board's ultimate goal, is to get our students back safely 5 days a week, face-to-face, in person, as soon as possible. But our stance has always been that we'll do this when the conditions permit us to do that. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of the data that I look at, that my team looks at, that I report to the board. First of all, we meet weekly. I meet weekly, oftentimes Dr. Orso is part of that, with Hamilton County Public Health every Friday morning. We're on a conference call with Health Commissioner Kesterman, and then a couple other medical doctors, as well as other superintendents in Hamilton County, all the superintendents in Hamilton County. And so we have those discussions every Friday. We often look at, when I say often, almost daily, look at the trend data. Where are things heading? Obviously, a trend is more than one day, so we really look at 2-week spans. We look at the number of confirmed positives, number of hospitalizations. We break it down by the 45236 zip code, along with demographic data. We look at one of the important things that you'll hear from the Hamilton County Public Health Department and Commissioner Kesterman is the R factor data, okay? And that is the reproductive data. And when the reproductive data is above 1.0, and I'm giving you guys a very big picture here, but when it's above 1.0, we have significant community spread. When it's below 1.0, they feel like they have it's being contained, okay? Hamilton County has fluctuated just above and just below for the last several weeks. Right now we are below. I believe we're at 0.94 or 0.92. We are just below. I believe Butler County is above right now. I think maybe Warren County, don't quote me on that, I'd have to look again. But we do look at that R factor data because that gives us a very good indication of how the virus is spreading. We look at our district data. I believe, I can't remember who mentioned it before, Mr. Smith with the Great Oaks, I think you guys are reporting your data out publicly, as we are with Hamilton County Public Health. We also are going to be putting, is it on our website yet, Mr. Snyder, this data? The COVID cases, and so we're going to get it on our website to be transparent with our community. One of the things I've been working with Dr. Orso on is that, and it's also part of an order. It's not a requirement, but it's a recommendation from Governor DeWine that came out last week that we publish that. And so we're working on publishing that data. Dr. Orso tracks it every day. She is our contact person for all things COVID related. She works with the Hamilton County Public Health Department every single day, multiple times a day. And just to give an update on the numbers, well, here they are. Currently, Deer Park right now has 0 student positive or probable, but we have 23 students that are quarantined, meaning they were close contact or suspected, and we have 5 new quarantines that popped up today. Okay, staff-wise, we currently do not have any. We have in the past, but we don't have any positive or what are considered probable. But we have 4 that are quarantined right now because they are close contact or suspected. Okay, we didn't have any new staff today. We had 5 new staff today. So Dr. Orso tracks that. We have to report it to Hamilton County Public Health. And I believe beginning this Thursday, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Orso, but this Thursday, Hamilton County Public Health will then make all that data public on their website as well. So all the school districts are required to report it, and then they make it public as well. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that where that data stands currently, and that is some of the data that we look at. And we also, again, use the anecdotal data that we have from conversations with Commissioner Kesterman, with different medical doctors that they bring in. They bring in Dr. Fagans. He is the chief medical officer at one of the hospitals. I can't remember which one, but he's part of those conversations every Friday. And right now, to answer the questions from the families, when are we coming back full time? Again, when the conditions permit, and we want to do it sooner rather than later. I think the data right now is trending in the right direction, but what we don't want to do is bring everybody back and then have to quarantine and stop school and then go remote, because now we have kids that are close contacts or suspected. So when that data consistently stays down, which is starting to trend that way, we'll look at coming back, and we're going to look at all these factors, and it'll be a decision that we have to communicate with the board, that I communicate with our staff, that I communicate with our community. We'll be very transparent on that, and I think we're headed that direction. And like I said, we all want to be back sooner rather than later. We know our kids do their best work, and they have the best opportunity to succeed when they're here every single day with our teachers, and we know that. So I just want to make sure, it might be clear as mud for families when we're coming back based on that description. But that is those are the data points that we're looking at, and as long as the data continues looking better, and it stays that way, Hamilton County Public Health, their recommendation to me, and again, this is a recommendation. We typically follow Hamilton County Public Health recommendations, but they said, Jay, I would say bring them back today. We know Marymount brought their students back full time yesterday. Indian Hill did the same thing. Okay, there's also districts that are currently in full time who sent out messages to their community last week that said, if things continue to trend the way they are, we're going to have to maybe shut down grade levels or shut down, quarantine many students. So it's still going back and forth both ways. So I do know there are schools coming back. We are looking at that. We also want to look at it we want to exercise an abundance of caution so that we don't bring everybody back and then have to quarantine right away. But hopefully sooner rather than later. Any questions from the board on that?
Jake told me no. What I want to say is that the new rule or regulation about kids having to stay home with the COVID, we published it the other day, and guess I'm confused about when I read it. If somebody goes home, I'm just going to throw it out there, with a headache, can you give me the process of what happens to them being able to come back the next day, whether they have a migraine or different things going on? Because I was curious, the kids that are out, if that's the issue behind that. I mean, I'm just curious because I'm seeing and hearing a lot about that.
Yep. And actually, I should finish my thought too from before. I said Hamilton County Public Health gave me the recommendation. They said, Jay, I wouldn't come back today, but I would start planning what that comeback and what that transition looks like. So that is currently where we're at and what we are doing. To answer your question, Mrs. Huster, I know that has been a topic of conversation really since we opened, because unfortunately, pretty much any symptom is a symptom of COVID-19. You know, from runny nose to headaches to stomach aches, sore throats, coughs, fevers, you name it. Very few symptoms of sicknesses that you might get wouldn't be the same as a COVID symptom. So we really appreciate families right now who, you know, I've heard from parents who have said, I'm trying to be a responsible parent. I know my daughter suffers from allergies. I kept her home because she was coughing like crazy and was really congested. But now I'm being told that she can't come back to school for 10 days, okay? To clarify the letter that went out, I think it was Friday, regarding doctor's notes, regarding a negative COVID test. Yes, when a kid has a COVID symptom, they are required to quarantine, okay? Unless, initially, one of two things. They had a negative COVID test, or they had a doctor's note that said it was not communicable disease related. Therefore, they can come back once the symptoms are gone for 24 hours, okay? Now, what has happened is they have got rid of that negative test because there were too many kids that were falsely testing negative, okay? Meaning, when you go test, it might say you have negative, but because it's in the very early stages, it's not reading. Then a day later, they start having symptoms, and now they test positive 2 days later. So they eliminated that ability to use a negative test to come back. But what you can still do, and I want to make sure it's clear to parents, you can still take your child to their pediatrician. The doctor can assess. The doctor will write us a note. We will communicate with Hamilton County Public Health. The MD said this. Hamilton County Public Health, basically, they've been pretty consistent. If the MD says that it's not related to COVID or a communicable disease, they can return 24 hours after the symptoms have gone away, okay? Anything I need to clarify on that? Sure.
So I know I also received a few emails from parents as well after that went out, and the directive about not accepting the negative test came from Hamilton County Public Health. But one question that came up several times was, if my child has symptom A, whatever it is, as Mr. Phillips said, that a lot of symptoms fall under COVID-19 symptoms, does my child have to stay home for 10 days? So we're using a symptom-based model to determine that, and the nurses are the ones who are doing those screeners for the most part, and we have two categories. So you have a category of symptoms under category A and a category of symptoms under category B. The A symptoms are more severe and more indicative of COVID. The B category symptoms are not as indicative, but also do show up often. So what Hamilton County has advised us to do is, if a student has one symptom in category A or two symptoms in category B, then they fall under that 10-day rule. So for example, in category B, you have sore throat and headache. If you just have a headache, you would not necessarily qualify to have to stay home for 10 days. But if you have a combination of a sore throat and a headache, then in that case you would have the 10-day rule or the doctor's note in order to come back. Does that help clarify?
So if a parent has to does urgent care count for that? If they go to urgent care and they get a note from urgent care that says they're okay?
It has to be a medical doctor. So if it's a nurse practitioner, I don't believe it counts.
We haven't had that yet, so I haven't had to talk to Hamilton County Public Health
Will you
about
ask
that.
them on that? Because I do
Sure.
think that that's part of the situation. I heard that, you can't get in with the medical doctor, and lots of times you deal with the PAs or nurse practitioners, and they're the ones who can do the same thing as the doctor, including writing prescriptions. So that was something that was brought to my attention, and I was like that clarified.
Yeah,
Possible?
absolutely. And one thing I will add to that, because rules and the requirements, they change often. Again, they got rid of the negative test because too many kids were falsely testing negative. These things change a lot. Again, they change often. And I will tell you, since the start of school, I feel like Hamilton County Public Health has grown a lot. We have grown a lot. They had to hire a whole slew of new people to be able to accommodate this. So not only were they hiring, but they were also training these people. And so I think they have become the people that are working with us have become much more knowledgeable, and we feel much more confident in what we are getting from them. They've been great from the beginning as far as being responsive and talking to us and getting back to us. But, this is still a process, and I know that's frustrating for our families, but, this is obviously something nobody's ever faced before. So as I said it from the very beginning, day one, I think back in March, all the way through July, flexibility is the key word here. And so we've got to continue to be flexible. They're going to change things. It's going to happen again. I know it. They're going to change either a symptom, or they're going to change a requirement for kids being quarantined and coming back to school. And I just want families to understand and know when it happens, it's going to happen.
I agree with you about flexibility and grace. The one other question that I have is that I know that a CHL school had to close a junior high class for a week, but yet, till the 18th of September, if I'm correct, but yet they were approved for our school and other schools to play athletics, and I'm just curious about how that flexibility works for playing athletics and a football game and playing volleyball and that.
Yeah, I can't speak to exactly what that case was. I know they shut down, and not just a class, but an entire grade level. And I believe there were, again, I'm speaking without, upfront and direct knowledge, but I know there was at least one, probably a couple of positive cases. And being that they probably were around so many other students, and possibly even teachers would be my guess, is that instead of trying to quarantine half the grade level, they put the grade level on remote learning, sent them all home for 2 weeks, the 14 days, and then everybody will be able to return unless they're still exhibiting symptoms after those 14 days. But as far as playing athletics, they would not be able to play. Kids that are quarantined don't have to play. Kids that are healthy that just got put on remote learning, they could still continue to play. They're still taking classes and doing what they have to do. They're not stopping school. They're learning remotely for those 2 weeks. But if you're quarantined, you cannot play.
Thanks for clarifying that, because that was kind of a big issue about, we keep kids home for 10 days and then they can come back to school and still play the sport. I was just curious how that worked.
And if a kid is quarantined because they are a close contact, if a kid is quarantined 10 days, they can't be at school, they can't play sports. If a kid is just home because they were learning remotely, because the whole grade level is learning remotely, that's a different story. Just like kids here that are part of Deer Park's Remote Learning Academy, the Accelerate Education in the elementary and Apex at the high school, they can come play sports. And it would be very similar to what some of the students at that school were facing. Okay, any other questions about returning face-to-face full-time and what that includes? Okay, and we will continue to communicate, and I'll be in contact with all of you. Again, I'll be in contact with our teachers, and we'll contact and be in communication with our families as well. But hopefully sooner rather than later. Two other pieces that I just wanted to talk about quickly. I mentioned to you in my board report about Champions. They have asked to hold a session on during our remote Wednesdays for students. They have 13 students who utilize their services on Monday and Tuesdays, 8 students who utilize their services on Thursdays and Fridays. With those small groups, they're able to house those kids basically in their homeroom pods. I just wanted to put it in front of you, see if any of you have any issues with them utilizing the building on Wednesdays in the cafeteria and outside. Their setup is in the cafeteria, not using our classrooms, and then being outside with those 21 students.
I guess I have a question. How are they going to do the remote learning that they're required to do? Will they be on doing the remote learning and getting support from the Champion staff the way we expect our kids to get support from their parents or caregivers?
Yep, that is their intention to have the kids will have to learn remotely. Otherwise, they'll be at a babysitter, and I would suspect that our Champions folks that are basically teachers in and of itself would be. I would count on them maybe a little bit more to be able to get our kids on that remote learning, I think, sometimes. So that's the expectation, that's their intent. I would circle back around and double check with them to clarify that, hey, you intend to be able to provide devices for our kids to connect with their teachers during the day. You're going to be helping them get their work done. If not, then we can't do it. But I think that's a good point.
Just for clarification, I think for our parents, that how much time should students be on for remote learning for Wednesdays? I guess that's my curiosity, because my grandkids are on probably 4.5 hours, so I'm curious if that's going to be what the expectation is or more than that, and how that just works with caregivers and everybody. I think that's probably my stress thing right now too.
So just to kind of clarify, just so you know what the expectations have been set for our teachers, which then translate to our students. Instructionally, our teachers are being asked to engage with their students through either office hours or full classroom setting. It varies between elementary and high school, but for 3 hours, okay? Engaging with our students for 3 hours. The other 3 hours that the teachers have, they will be working on lessons for kids that are A-day students on Thursdays and Fridays, and when they're at home, they'll be working on recording lessons to post to Schoology for those kids. They'll be creating the assignments and the work for those students when they're on their off days. So they're going to be planning and prepping outside of those instructional 3 hours. They can also utilize those 3 hours to continue individual or small group meetings with their students. There's nothing that prohibits them from doing that as well. That's kind of up to the teacher, but I know a lot of them are going to utilize that time to make sure that things are well planned and prepared for our kids when they're on their off days. So to be more direct, like we talked about, to review, teachers are being asked to engage 3 hours instructionally with their students. Students may be working a little bit more. They might be engaged with at the high school level, they might be engaged with their math teacher for 45 minutes and an English teacher for 45 minutes and a science teacher for 45 minutes during those certain times. But then they also might have another hour of work to do on top of that.
Glad I sit in this seat, because then I can ask my other question. So if I have my kiddos on Wednesday and they have this packet of stuff to be done, then I really just have the expectation that Nana's only on duty to work 3 hours? I want a yes, Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
Thank you very
Nana,
much.
that doesn't
And
apply to everybody else.
The audience is clapping. I'm letting you know these parents out there are clapping.
That's one of the hard pieces, and I know we've talked about this, but that's one of the hard parts of any remote learning experiences is that you have our kids, especially our younger kids, but all the way up, they need the support of adults in their lives to be able to help facilitate, coordinate, structure. Parents didn't sign up to be teachers. We get that. And I've heard that loud and clear from many parents. But our kids have a very hard time structuring these things for themselves. So they do need adult support, whether it's mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, babysitter. There is going to need to be some support there. I can't guarantee a time limit, Nana.
Okay, let's revisit this one more time. So it's 3 hours on Wednesday, and I'm being serious, because I think, as you hear from parents and that, I think they really, really want to do a good job, and I think their concern is the fact that we haven't had education since last March, and we tried very hard, and I take my hat off to the teachers for what they did in our administration team, so that these kids are coming back way behind on things, and so I'm just checking to make sure that we're not putting the horse before the cart on the fact that kids need to pick up, and the parents are kind of panicked when the work comes home that they know their child can't do. So that what I guess I want to use this platform to say to parents is if you feel that's happening, please contact your child's teacher and not put it out on Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Anything else for board discussion?
We have one more item too, I'm sorry. Cheryl Walsh, I want to congratulate her. She applied for a Learning Links grant for $1,000. The purpose of the Learning Links grant that she is going to use that money for is to provide a project-based learning task of creating a virtual library that's going to be set up by our students. So appreciate Cheryl's always, her willingness to always go out there and go over above and beyond to try to find money to help support our kids. And I think this is a cool idea. So congratulations to Cheryl.
Have something, Paul?
Just wondering about the, given the fact that we're divided up significantly, how we're keeping track of attendance and/or truancy.
So that's kind of a broad question because you have two different segments of your population. You have our remote learners and then we have our online learners. Our remote learners have to be logged in and working for a certain amount of time. I can't remember, the 5.75 at the high school, junior high, and 5.5 at the elementary school per day. Our kids that are in the hybrid model, and let me back up, for the remote model, kids that hadn't logged in, we actually had our truancy officer reach out to them. And so we have to continue to keep track of that. And our truancy officers involved, our principals, Dr. Orso is involved with that. We contact these families, figure out where they're at, what's going on, see what supports they need. If we can't get a hold of them, then our truancy officer becomes involved and does some home visits and tracks them down for us. Kids that are here in the hybrid model, if they are completing their work and staying on track, then we consider that they have been here and they're present. We don't have a clock per se that a kid logs into the system on their off days and we can track that time like we do with our remote learners. However, if a kid is falling behind in work, if a kid is not completing any work at all, then once again we have those conversations with the parents and the students, and then it can become a attendance and truancy issue. There's two different requirements from the Ohio Department of Education. One is that hour requirement on your remote plan, like I've just discussed. The other piece, and prior to this year, for example, we would submit a hybrid plan for what used to be called blizzard bags. If you had too many snow days, then you could have kids do work from home. Well, that was considered a hybrid plan, and there weren't hour requirements there. That is similar to what we're using now with our kids that are face-to-face 50% of the time in the hybrid model. So we are tracking the work, we're tracking the progress. If a kid is not doing anything when they're at home, then we start digging in, and it can be an attendance issue.
Anybody have anything else? All right, we do have need for executive session this evening to discuss the employment of a school employee or official. So if I could please have a motion.
So move.
All those in favor to move to executive session at this time, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will not be coming back and taking any action at this time, so thank you all for joining us virtually, and thank you all administration that is here with us tonight. And Steve, it was good to see you.